Have you ever wondered what secrets lurk just beyond our understanding, hidden in places no one thinks to look? Imagine a father so desperate to protect his little girl that he slips a tiny recording device into the braids of her hair. At first, it seems like an over-the-top tactic driven by paranoia. But when he plays back the audio, everything changes. The events that unravel are more terrifying than anyone could imagine. This isn't just a story of a father's love. It's also a harrowing tale of betrayal, danger, and an eerie twist of fate. Brace yourself. What you're about to hear will shock you. Marcus Gaines lived on the east side of Detroit, a city with deep roots and a troubled history, but also abundant love and resilience. He had never considered himself an overly cautious person. After all, he had grown up in the same rough neighborhood, where he was now raising his daughter, Ebony. Still, something changed in him when Ebony turned 9. The city that once felt like a strong community now seemed littered with potential threats. A single father of one, Marcus shouldered the responsibility of not only providing for Ebony's physical needs, but protecting her innocence. The tension had been building for months. Ebony was no longer the giggling little girl who used to meet Marcus at the door every evening, face gleaming at the prospect of sharing a bedtime story. Slowly she had withdrawn, turning quiet and pensive. Marcus, who prided himself on being close to her, found himself locked out of her world. He tried everything, speaking with her, engaging in her schoolwork, volunteering at her events. But her eyes would flicker with shadows each time she came home from Lincoln High School's advanced middle grade program. One night, Marcus overheard Ebony talking in her sleep, murmuring anxious phrases that made no sense. She sounded frightened. When he gently shook her awake, Ebony's lips trembled, as if she wanted to share something but couldn't muster the words. That moment, combined with weeks of detached silence, ignited a primal fear in Marcus. He convinced himself that Ebony might be in danger at school, maybe from an unsympathetic teacher, an aggressive bully or something worse. As the father of a bright, talented black girl in a world too quick to judge, Marcus felt the pressure doubly. He remembered the lingering scowls on teachers' faces when Ebony excelled beyond expectations. He recalled the hesitant glances from administrators as if waiting for Ebony to mess up. He had brushed it aside for too long. Now, as Ebony's nights became restless and her days were spent looking over her shoulder, Marcus recognized he could ignore these signs no more. It started as just a seed of an idea. Late one night, he scoured the internet for discrete recording devices, stumbling upon a device called the Sony ICD PX470, a slim portable recorder that could pick up whispers from across a room. It wasn't exactly marketed for espionage. Still, with an external microphone attachment, it could hide in plain sight. The question was how to place it in Ebony's presence without alerting staff or other students. Marcus considered pockets, backpacks, even her sweater, but all seemed too obvious or too easy to remove. Then it hit him. Ebony had recently started braiding her hair in intricate protective styles, plaits woven close to the scalp. If he could conceal the microphone beneath her braids. The plan formed in his mind almost instantly, but guilt nagged at him. Would Ebony feel betrayed? Was it even legal? He had never spied on anyone in his life, least of all his own daughter. Before he could sink into moral hesitation, the memory of her whispered nightmares pulled him back. Protecting Ebony was paramount, even if it meant bending ethical lines. Convinced it was necessary, Marcus pressed add to cart. 2 days later, a discreet brown package arrived at the front door. Inside lay the small recorder, its external microphone no bigger than a pencil eraser, neatly sealed in bubble wrap. Marcus tested the device, impressed by its clarity. He found he could pick up the slightest rustling from across the living room. Perfect. That evening, after Ebony's shower, he prepared to style her hair. She loved the father-daughter ritual, listening to old-school R&B tunes, hearing stories about her grandparents, and nibbling on apple slices while Marcus patiently braided her hair. Usually, Ebony talked about her day, her favorite teacher, Ms. Figueroa, her best friend, Tia the math tests. But not this time. She sat arms folded, eyes distant. Marcus began parting her hair into neat sections. Beneath one of the upper braids, he delicately fastened the miniature microphone Ebony barely noticed. Her mind was elsewhere, and Marcus's steady hands were familiar. Swallowing his guilt, Marcus carefully braided over the device until it vanished like a secret within her thick, neatly woven hair. He used a little black ribbon to secure the end. Afterwards, he searched her expression for any sign of suspicion. But Ebony seemed exhausted. She thanked him for the braids, yawned, and retreated to her bedroom, leaving Marcus alone in the dimly lit hallway. Now that the device was set, all that remained was to pray he'd find answers, and in doing so protect his child from whatever was haunting her. The next morning, Ebony seemed marginally better. She smiled a little at breakfast, giving Marcus a soft "thank you" when he handed her the lunch he had packed, turkey sandwich, carrot sticks, and her favorite granola bar. She hurried out the door off to catch the school bus. Marcus watched her disappear around the corner, heart thumping. He imagined Ebony stepping through the gates of Lincoln High's middle school annex. He pictured her in the crowded hallway, the microphone discreetly recording every step, every whisper. The day crawled by. Marcus struggled to focus on work. He spent hours drafting an important design for an architecture firm, but found his mind wandering to Ebony's predicament. By lunch break, he was so jittery that he visited a local Starbucks, hoping an iced latte might soothe him. Instead, the caffeine amped up his anxiety. Would Ebony be safe? Would the device record anything significant? What if Ebony found out he was spying on her? When Ebony came home, her face bore the same expression of exhaustion. She set her backpack down, and after a muted greeting went to her room. Marcus began dinner, a simple pasta dish. After Ebony fell asleep, he quietly tiptoed into her room, carefully lifted one of the braids, and slipped the microphone from its hiding place. By the faint glow of his laptop in the living room, he downloaded the audio files. There were hours of recordings. Some were muffled, others crisp. He fast-forwarded through the morning chatter. Ebony laughing with Tia about weekend plans, the hustle and bustle of students, a teacher calling out attendance. There was muffled scraping, probably Ebony's desk chair, a squeal of excitement in the cafeteria. Then came recess with Ebony discussing a science project about volcanoes. So far it was typical. Marcus leaned back, a mixture of relief and embarrassment creeping in. Maybe he was overreacting. And then everything shifted. A male voice, deep, resonant, with an unmistakable edge, began speaking in low, urgent tones. Though the words were partially lost in the background, Marcus turned the volume up. The man's voice grew clearer. "Got what I need. No mistakes. If you fail me again, you'll pay." Another voice, younger, and Shaky asked, "But what if someone finds out?" The older voice responded, "We'll make sure they never speak." Fear drenched every syllable. Who were these people, and why was Ebony anywhere near them? Marcus's heart pounded against his ribcage. He heard scuffling, then Ebony's soft breathing, as if she was hiding. A door slammed, footsteps faded. Then Ebony's voice, barely above a whisper, spoke to someone. "We have to tell someone about this." Another whispered, "We can't." "You heard what he said," Ebony responded. "But it's not right." People could get hurt. The conversation ended abruptly when a teacher's voice thundered from afar, telling the students to return to class. Goosebumps crawled up Marcus's arms. Ebony had discovered something sinister, something far beyond the scope of mere schoolyard bullying. Someone threatened the safety of a student or a staff member, or worse, but Ebony seemed to feel powerless to expose it. The terror in her voice was chilling. Marcus realized Ebony must have been carrying this secret alone, and now with this recording, so was he. Marcus tossed and turned, replaying the menacing voice in his mind. He woke up in cold sweats, heart hammering, certain he'd heard something monstrous. When morning came, Ebony was already dressed, her face puffy with fatigue. Marcus fumbled through breakfast, forcing a smile he didn't feel. Ebony, perhaps sensing her father's tension, offered a small, hollow smile back. She left for school. Marcus, for the first time in his adult life, considered calling in sick. He had to figure out what to do. But he needed more evidence. Was this a teacher, an outsider, who had snuck onto school grounds, a janitor? The conversation implied criminal activity, but what exactly? Marcus decided to continue the recordings for a few more days. He hated the stealth and subterfuge, but Ebony's safety overshadowed all reservations. He only wished he could talk to her openly, but he was afraid to confront her without a plan. She might hide information, or worse, confirm something he wasn't ready to hear. That night, the second day's recording revealed Ebony whispering to Tia. "We can't pretend we didn't see it," Tia responded. "I'm scared." Ebony's voice grew urgent. "I am too, but we need to." Abruptly, a bell rang. Chairs scraped. The conversation ended. Next, the same threatening male voice surfaced again. Though more distant, snippets of words drifted through the hallway. Noise shipment. 2 p.m. Money. Marcus swallowed hard. Shipment money. Were they talking about drugs, weapons, or something else? By the end of the third day, Marcus felt like he was living a nightmare. The recordings only grew darker. The male voice, sometimes accompanied by another adult, mentioned handling merchandise, ensuring no cops and meeting on the weekend. The older voice also mentioned Ebony by name in a mocking sing-song tone. "She thinks she's so smart." That felt like a gut punch to Marcus. Ebony was targeted. In the quiet hours of night, the past came rushing back. Marcus remembered hearing stories of illegal activities happening around the community, some perpetuated by those in positions of authority who exploited their jobs for personal gain. He recalled how his own father had turned a blind eye to wrongdoing in order to keep the family safe. Now Marcus was confronted by the same moral dilemma. This time he would not stay silent. On the fourth day, Ebony came home, visibly shaken. She had a scratch on her forearm and a tear in her backpack strap. Marcus rushed to her side, frantically checking for injuries. She pulled away. "I'm fine, Dad," she insisted, even though her voice trembled. But Marcus saw fear flickering in her eyes. "Ebony, talk to me." He tried to keep his voice gentle. She hesitated, struggling to speak. Finally she mumbled, I saw something. I didn't mean to, but I did." Marcus swallowed. "What did you see?" Her eyes darted away. "Something. In the supply room. Boxes, big ones. And Mr. Anderson was there, with some man. I don't know. They looked angry. I told Tia. We should tell the principal, but the man, he saw us. He threatened us. Mr. Anderson, the popular PE teacher who everyone adored for his charismatic ways, the teacher who had been at Lincoln for over a decade. Marcus's mind raced. That was the same voice on the recordings. Ebony's face twisted with shame, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Dad, I didn't want to keep secrets, but I'm so scared. They said they'd hurt us if we talked." Marcus's heart stung with empathy. He gently took Ebony's hand. "You are so brave to tell me. I promise I'll keep you safe." Ebony's eyes widened, as if she recognized something in her father's demeanor. An anger, a determination that could not be swayed. "We can't just go to the police, right? They'll know it was me." Marcus's mind whirled. He had the recordings, but they were illegally obtained. Would they hold up if he took them to authorities? And Ebony could be in more danger if word got out. Yet ignoring this was no longer an option. He realized with a chill that Mr. Anderson knew Ebony had witnessed something that meant Ebony was marked before dawn. The next day, Marcus made a choice. Instead of heading to his office, he drove straight to Tia's house. He had gleaned Tia's parents were also worried about their daughter's sudden nightmares. Tia's father, Kevin, opened the door with suspicious eyes. Marcus explained he needed to speak with Tia and her parents about a matter of utmost importance. Kevin gave him a stern nod, inviting him inside. In the living room, Tia sat huddled next to her mother, twisting the edge of her sweater. When Marcus asked if they knew anything about suspicious happenings at school, Tia froze. Her mother turned to Tia, brow furrowed. Quietly, Tia confirmed Ebony's story. She too had overheard Mr. Anderson discussing shipments, money, and threatening repercussions to any nosy kid who might squeal. Tia's voice shook as she explained the supply room encounter. Marcus pulled out his phone, playing select bits of the recordings. Tia's mother gasped at the male voice's threats. Kevin's jaw set with tension. "My little girl, overheard criminals," he muttered, fury igniting in his eyes. Marcus nodded. "I don't want to put Tia in further danger, but we can't let this continue. The question is, what do we do now?" They debated options. Going to the police, going to the school board, confronting Mr. Anderson. Each came with risks. But Tia's father, a local journalist, had an idea. "If we gather more solid proof, like photos of these shipments, my contacts at the Detroit Free Press can blow this wide open. The police will have to act, and the school will be forced to protect Ebony and Tia as key witnesses. However it meant staking out the school or intercepting the contraband in real time, finally they agreed on a plan. Marcus would keep Ebony out of school for a day, citing illness, while Tia would feign ignorance in class to avoid suspicion. Kevin would arrange a disguised camera, something small, easy to hide, so that Tia could sneak photographic evidence of the illicit cargo in the supply room. It was dangerous, but Tia insisted she wanted to stand by Ebony. "We have each other's backs," she said, her voice trembling yet resolute. The next morning, Ebony stayed home, relieved yet anxious. Marcus, on edge, tried to keep her busy with board games, but Ebony's mind was clearly on Tia, who was heading to school with a concealed camera pen clipped to her binder. Meanwhile, Tia was meant to slip into the supply room at lunch, snap photos, and get out fast. Marcus felt as though an invisible clock was ticking in his head all day. He checked his phone, obsessively, waiting for an update from Kevin. Hours passed, and no word. Ebony paced around the living room. Even the cat shadow sensed the tension, meowing nervously. Finally, around 2 p.m., Kevin called Tia had successfully taken several photos of large crates, labeled with coded numbers hidden behind sports equipment. She also caught an image of Mr. Anderson speaking to a burly man who carried a handgun tucked in his waistband. Kevin's tone was grim. "This looks serious." Marcus guns, or maybe even something else. But we have enough to go to the police and the press. I'll contact my reporter friend tonight. Marcus thanked him. Relief mingled with terror. Now that they had physical evidence, the criminals might panic. Would they retaliate? Ebony overheard him speaking on the phone and approached cautiously. "Dad is Tia." "Okay," he nodded. "She's brave, just like you, but we have to be very careful." That evening, Ebony clung to Marcus, flinching at every unexpected sound. Marcus checked the locks twice. He closed the curtains, nearly jumping out of his skin when a siren blared down the street. Around 9 p.m., Kevin called again, sounding agitated. "Marcus, my contact wants to break the story tomorrow morning. We have the pictures, we have your recordings, and I'm giving them the entire scoop. You need to be prepared for backlash." Once this hits the news, Mr. Anderson might put 2 and 2 together. A shiver coursed through Marcus. "We'll be ready," but as the night wore on, the ramifications weighed heavily. Mr. Anderson was a well-respected teacher, integrated into the school's daily operations. If he was dealing with criminals, they might have allies. They could target Ebony or Tia. Marcus felt cornered. He was about to blow the lid off something huge, possibly a weapons smuggling ring, and the repercussions could be deadly. Sure enough, at midnight, Ebony shook Marcus awake. She'd heard something. He jumped out of bed, heart pounding. Then he heard it too. A muffled thump near the front door, like someone trying to force entry. Marcus peered through the peephole. A silhouette, a tall figure. Another thump. The doorknob rattled. Fear surged through him as he dialed 911 voice, trembling. But by the time the police arrived, the intruder was gone, leaving only muddy footprints in the yard. Any idea who might want to break in? The officer asked, scribbling notes. Marcus hesitated, exchanging a glance with Ebony. I think so, but I can't say much yet. It's about an illegal operation at my daughter's school. We've involved the press. This might be retaliation." The officer's eyes narrowed with concern, but he simply offered to file a report and keep an eye on the area. Marcus locked the door behind them, feeling more alone than ever. Ebony curled up against him on the couch, trembling with every gust of wind outside. The city lights illuminated their living room in pale blue. Marcus stroked her hair silently, vowing that he would not allow evil to touch his little girl. Morning arrived with a flurry of phone calls and text messages. Kevin's news story had published online and was quickly picked up by local TV stations. The headline read, "Teacher at Lincoln High School, suspected of smuggling illegal merchandise, photographic evidence." Emerges within hours. A swirl of rumors spread across the community. Parents called each other in disbelief. Students texted frantic messages asking if the story was real. Even Ebony's phone buzzed incessantly. Marcus and Ebony watched from home as the coverage aired on Channel 7 Action News. The reporter standing outside Lincoln High School briefly summarized the allegations, mentioning an anonymous witness who provided audio recordings and photo evidence. Police vehicles were visible in the background. The reporter announced that Mr. Anderson had not been seen at school that morning, and the principal had declined to comment, but promised full cooperation with law enforcement. With each passing minute, Marcus's anxiety soared. He worried that Mr. Anderson would guess Ebony's involvement. After all, Ebony had been missing from school the day Tia took the photos. Meanwhile, Ebony's phone chimed with a text message from Tia. "School is crazy. Cops everywhere. They took Mr. Anderson's computer. People suspect you or me, but I'm safe in the principal's office for now." Ebony exhaled relief and fear mingling. The day stretched on in a haze of tension. By noon, the Detroit Police Department held a press conference. A stern-faced spokesperson confirmed they were investigating possible criminal activity connected to unauthorized shipments on school property. They declined to name suspects, but assured the public that the safety of students is paramount. The mention of potential involvement of multiple adults and even a local gang heightened the alarm. Marcus was on edge. He paced the living room, Ebony close behind him. Then he received a call from a blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. Silence on the other end, a raspy breath, and then a low whisper. "You'll regret what you did." The line went dead. Chills racked Marcus's spine. Ebony saw the look on his face, and her eyes brimmed with tears had she asked. Voice trembling. He didn't answer, but the silence spoke volumes. Mid-afternoon. A knock at the door startled them both. Marcus peered through the window, spotting a tall, authoritative figure in plain clothes. Carefully he opened the door. The man introduced himself as Detective Raul Martinez from the Detroit Police Department. He flashed a badge, then stepped inside, scanning the area before offering a gentle smile to Ebony. "I understand you and your daughter may have crucial information regarding these allegations at Lincoln High," he said softly, taking a seat on the couch. "We've got enough evidence to suspect Mr. Anderson was running something, likely guns, through the school. He has connections to a local syndicate. We raided his house earlier, but he's nowhere to be found." Marcus swallowed. "He called me, or someone did, threatened me." Detective Martinez nodded, face grim. "These are dangerous people. We're placing Tia under protective watch. We want to do the same for Ebony. We can't force you to comply, but I recommend it. At least until we locate Mr. Anderson." Ebony clutched Marcus's arm, wide-eyed. Marcus exhaled slowly. They had no choice. Danger lurked at every corner. Detective Martinez arranged for a patrol car to circle the neighborhood, and for Ebony to receive an escort if she returned to school anytime soon. This was not how Marcus envisioned his daughter's sixth-grade experience, guarded by police, because she had the misfortune of witnessing a criminal conspiracy. As the detective left, Ebony looked up at her father with a forlorn expression. "Dad, what if Mr. Anderson tries to hurt Tia or us anyway? He seemed so nice before all of this." Marcus knelt in front of her, gently resting his hands on her shoulders. "We're not alone in this, Ebony. We have Detective Martinez Tia and her family, and even the rest of the community that wants to see justice done. We're doing the right thing. It's just dangerous. Sometimes doing the right thing." Days turned into a week. Police presence at Lincoln High intensified. The local news continued to run updates on the teacher smuggling scandal, while the rumor mill churned. Some parents believed Ebony and Tia were heroes. Others suspected the girls had invented the story or exaggerated events. Still, the photographic evidence remained damning crates hidden in the supply room. A man with a gun logs of shipments on Mr. Anderson's computer, discovered by police. But they still hadn't found Mr. Anderson. Every day, Ebony dreaded the possibility he might jump out from the shadows. She refused to sleep in her own bed, opting instead for the couch in the living room, closer to her father. Each night, Marcus checked the doors and windows, triple-locking everything his nerves frayed. He felt imprisoned by fear in his own home. One evening, Ebony confided in Marcus. "I feel guilty because of me. Tia's family is in danger, too." Marcus pulled her into a hug. "No, you did what was right. The danger was already there. You just shined a light on it. And now that it's out in the open, the police can actually stop it." Tears shone in Ebony's eyes. She nodded, though uncertainty lingered. Marcus felt that fatherly ache for normalcy. Again, simple dinners, jokes about her favorite cartoons, a worry-free childhood. That life seemed far away now. Then came the unexpected phone call from Ebony's homeroom teacher, Ms. Figueroa, who arranged a private meeting at an off-campus coffee shop. Miss Figueroa had taught Ebony for 2 years and cared for her deeply, often praising Ebony's curiosity. Marcus, intrigued, yet suspicious, agreed to meet. In a corner booth of a cozy diner, Figueroa leaned forward, voice hushed. "I need you to know something, Mr. Gaines," she said. "Mr. Anderson used to be a mentor to me when I first joined Lincoln. We were close friends. But a year ago he changed. He started meeting people late at night, taking calls during class breaks. When I confronted him, he told me to mind my own business." Marcus studied her carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" "Now." Ms. Figueroa's voice, cracked eyes downcast. "Because I suspect someone else in the school was helping him. The shipments were too large. He couldn't do it alone. And I'm worried for Ebony. Mr. Anderson might not act alone if he decides to retaliate." Marcus's stomach churned. "Who else?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered a name that made Marcus's blood run cold. Principal Kennedy, the same principal who had promised cooperation with the investigation, the same man who gave Ebony a Student of the Month award last semester and congratulated her on her exemplary math scores. Marcus felt an inward shiver. If the principal was involved, the entire operation was bigger than they realized. Marcus left the diner in a daze. Everything seemed so fragile. He recalled Ebony's trust in Principal Kennedy, how she admired him. Now the suspicion threatened to unravel the entire school system. He called Detective Martinez, immediately sharing Miss Figueroa's allegations. The detective sounded intrigued but cautious. "We've had rumors about officials covering up for Mr. Anderson. Nothing concrete yet. This is important information. Mr. Gaines, I need Ms. Figueroa to come forward and make a statement." Marcus promised to convey the message. Yet as he hung up, he worried Ms. Figueroa might face repercussions. Was it safe for her to become a whistleblower? If Principal Kennedy truly was involved, Ms. Figueroa could be targeted. At home, Ebony was curled up with a book on the couch. Marcus forced a smile, but Ebony could tell something was wrong. "Dad, you look worried again." He sighed. "Just found out Principal Kennedy might be helping Mr. Anderson. This whole situation is bigger than we thought." Ebony's eyes widened. She remembered the principal's warm smile, his boisterous laugh during assemblies, and the way he'd always pat her on the shoulder when she scored high on tests. The revelation felt like betrayal. How can people who seem so nice do such terrible things? Marcus shook his head. Sometimes we don't know what's in a person's heart until we see how far they're willing to go for money or power. It doesn't excuse them, though. He placed a comforting hand on Ebony's shoulder. It just means we have to stand up for what's right, no matter how scary it is. Detective Martinez moved swiftly. He arranged for Ms. Figueroa to make a formal statement and launched an internal investigation into Principal Kennedy's finances. They discovered questionable bank deposits that far exceeded his school salary. They also unearthed security footage from the school's back entrance, late-night visits involving Principal Kennedy, Mr. Anderson, and unidentified men carrying crates. But Mr. Anderson was still missing. Rumors placed him out of state. Others claimed he was hiding somewhere in Detroit. Ebony, for her part, tried to resume a semblance of normal life. She began attending school again, but only under police escort. Tia, too, was accompanied by an officer in plain clothes. The girls tried to focus on their studies while sidestepping swirling gossip. A plan formed. Detective Martinez enlisted Miss Figueroa's cooperation to lure Principal Kennedy into an incriminating conversation. She would wear a wire meeting him on school grounds after hours. The detective reasoned that if Ms. Figueroa hinted she might know something, Principal Kennedy could attempt to bribe or threaten her, revealing his criminal involvement. Meanwhile, officers would be stationed nearby, ready to intervene. Marcus and Ebony were not directly involved in the sting, but they monitored events from a safe house arranged by the police. Ebony found the environment strange. Bland walls, humming air conditioning, minimal furniture. Marcus hovered by the phone, receiving updates from Detective Martinez every hour. Ebony kept glancing at the windows, anticipating some sudden threat. Their hearts pounded in sync with the ticking clock as Ms. Figueroa ventured alone into the school that fateful evening. Shortly after 9 p.m., Ms. Figueroa slipped inside Lincoln High, where Principal Kennedy was working late on administrative tasks. She confronted him in the dimly lit hallway near the cafeteria, claiming she had come across suspicious documents. A live audio feed transmitted every word to Detective Martinez, and his team parked outside Principal Kennedy. Ms. Figueroa began, voice tremulous. "I know about the shipments. Mr. Anderson told me everything before he disappeared. I don't want to get the police involved, but I'm scared." Kennedy's voice rose sharp with fear. "You better watch what you say. You think you can come in here and accuse me of something?" Ms. Figueroa pressed on, feigning desperation. "I just want assurance. I won't get hurt. My job, I can't lose it." Kennedy hesitated. Then came the incriminating admission. "You keep quiet, you'll be safe." Mr. Anderson messed up. Made it too big. Too public. But he won't be a problem for us anymore. Now we just have to deal with these meddling kids. Ebony and Tia. We'll show them it's not worth their trouble. Outside, Marcus's stomach twisted in knots. Hearing Ebony's name, Detective Martinez signaled his officers to move. Meanwhile, Miss Figueroa's voice trembled out. "No, please. Ebony is just a child," Kennedy growled. "She's the reason Anderson is on the run. She and that other girl took those photos. You think I don't know? If I have to, I'll make sure they stay quiet. Permanently." That was the final straw. The SWAT team burst in, catching Principal Kennedy off guard. Miss Figueroa jumped aside. Police officers pinned him to the ground. He flailed and cursed, but it was over. The wire recorded every word Detective Martinez read him, his rights snapping handcuffs around his wrists. Outside in a police van, Marcus heard the live feed go silent. As the operation concluded, news of Principal Kennedy's arrest ricocheted around Detroit. People were horrified that the school's top official had enabled such a criminal operation. Parents demanded answers. The school board scrambled, and the local media devoured every angle. Ebony, however, found little solace. Principal Kennedy was in custody, but Mr. Anderson was still at large. That night, Ebony lay awake, scanning the corners of the safe house bedroom with fearful eyes. She wondered if Mr. Anderson might be lurking nearby. Marcus tried to calm her, reading an old fairy tale they both loved, but the words felt empty. Even he struggled to believe in happy endings. Early the next morning, Detective Martinez brought unexpected news. Mr. Anderson had surfaced. He'd been spotted at a bus terminal near the outskirts of Detroit, trying to flee the city. The police pursued him, but he escaped. The detective suspected Mr. Anderson was desperate, and desperate people were unpredictable. "We're close, though," Martinez assured. Yet Ebony grew more anxious. Skipping meals, eyes clouded with worry, Marcus recognized the toll it was taking on her. He also felt guilt gnawing at him. He had started this with the secret recording, but Ebony had been the one forced to live in fear. A swirl of emotions warred inside him: pride for standing up to injustice, regret for placing Ebony in danger, and a fierce, protective love that overshadowed all else. In a moment of solemn reflection, Marcus sat Ebony down on the safe house's couch. He gently took her hands. "Ebony, I'm sorry for everything you've been through," he began. "I did something I'm not proud of. I hid a recorder in your hair without telling you." Her eyes widened. "You did what she asked." Shocked tears blurred Marcus's vision. "I thought you were in danger, and I was scared you wouldn't tell me what was happening, so I placed a tiny microphone in your braids. That's how I got those recordings. That's how we found out about Mr. Anderson." Ebony stared at him, betrayal and understanding clashing in her gaze. "Dad, you spied on me." He bowed his head. "I know. It was wrong to invade your privacy. But if I hadn't, we wouldn't have discovered the truth in time." Silence hung thick between them. Then Ebony gave a small nod, tears spilling over. "I wish you'd trusted me enough to talk to me first. But I get it. I was scared too." She fell into his arms, sobbing quietly. In that moment, father and daughter found both heartbreak and healing. Marcus knew the road to rebuilding trust might be long, but he felt a weight lift from his chest just being honest with her, at last. In the aftermath of their harrowing ordeal, the days that followed were quiet, but heavy with reflection. Inside the plain walls of the safe house, Marcus and Ebony found themselves wrapped not in danger, but in silence, one that echoed with things left unsaid. Marcus had kept busy, pacing, checking the locks and fielding phone calls with Detective Martinez. But now, with Mr. Anderson behind bars and the storm beginning to pass, the quiet left him face to face with the consequences of his choices, not just the heroic ones, but the complicated ones too. He knew there was one more truth he owed his daughter. He found Ebony curled up on the couch, a blanket draped around her, absent-mindedly stroking their cat shadow. She looked older than she had weeks ago, not in years, but in weight carried. Her eyes, once wide with curiosity, now held a wariness that Marcus hated. He sat beside her, taking a breath. "Ebony," he began gently, "I need to talk to you, about everything." She looked up, blinking. "Is it about Mr. Anderson?" "Not just that," he said. "It's about how this all started. I haven't been honest with you." Ebony sat straighter, sensing his seriousness. He continued. "The recordings, the ones that helped us expose what was happening at school. I didn't just stumble across them. I put a microphone in your hair." Her face froze. "What? I hid a tiny microphone in your braids. I thought something was wrong, but you weren't talking to me. I was scared for you. I wanted to protect you, but I didn't know how to reach you. So I did something I'm not proud of." For a long-waited moment, Ebony said nothing. Her expression flickered between betrayal, confusion, and realization. Then, in a quiet voice, she asked, "Why didn't you just ask me?" "I did," Marcus said, pain laced in his voice. "But you were scared I could see it, and I thought, if I just knew what was going on, maybe I could help you without making things worse. But I see now that not trusting you hurt you too." Ebony looked down, eyes filling with tears. I felt alone, like I had to carry it all by myself. Marcus reached for her hand, holding it gently. "And I hate that I made you feel that way. I never wanted you to carry any of this alone. From now on, no more secrets between us." There was silence again, but this time it was different. Softer. Ebony nodded slowly. "I wish you hadn't spied on me. But I understand why you did. And I'm glad you were there when it mattered most." She leaned against his shoulder, her small frame pressing into his. Marcus held her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We've been through hell," he whispered, "but we're still standing, and we're going to heal together." That night they stayed up late, really talking for the first time in weeks. Ebony shared the moment she first overheard the criminal conversation in the hallway, how she and Tia wrestled with the fear of speaking up, how every day at school had felt like walking a tightrope. Marcus listened, never interrupting, letting her unburden what she had carried far too long. By the end of the night, something in the air had shifted. Trust was not instantly repaired, but a bridge was being rebuilt. One word, one shared silence, one held hand at a time. They had faced darkness. Now slowly, they were choosing light. 2 days later, Ebony woke early, restless in the safe house. She tiptoed to the kitchen for a glass of water. Suddenly she saw movement outside the window, a shadow. Her throat tightened. Before she could scream, she heard the door rattling. She rushed to Marcus's room, waking him, "Dad." "Someone's outside," Ebony whispered, panic in her voice. Marcus grabbed his phone, heart pounding. He called Detective Martinez, who was supposed to have plainclothes officers nearby. But the line rang endlessly. Fear hammered in Marcus's ears. The door handle jiggled, then a furious pounding. Marcus pushed Ebony behind him. He had no weapon, no means of defending them, except for a heavy table lamp. The door burst open with a sharp crack. There stood Mr. Anderson, his eyes wild face, unshaven, sweat beading on his brow. He clutched a handgun muzzle, trembling slightly in his unsteady grip. Ebony let out a strangled gasp, shrinking behind her father. Marcus's world spun Anderson. He managed, voice cracking. Anderson's gaze slid to ebony eyes, burning with a mix of fury and desperation. "You ruined everything I thought we had an understanding at that school. Keep your nose out of grown folks' business. But you just couldn't listen, could you?" He stepped closer, brandishing the gun. Marcus's palms went clammy. If he tried to rush Anderson, Ebony could be shot. He inched backward, shielding her. "Anderson, let's talk about this. The police are coming." "You don't want to hurt a child." Anderson laughed, a harsh, empty sound. That child destroyed my life, my connections, my money. Kennedy is behind bars. Everything I worked for is gone." His voice cracked. "And now I've got nothing to lose." Marcus glanced at Ebony's terrified face. Adrenaline surged. He clutched the table lamp, preparing to risk it all. Suddenly, Ebony stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "Please, Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry. I never wanted to destroy your life. But what you were doing was wrong." Her voice quaked, tears streaming. Anderson's hand shook on the gun's grip. He snarled, "Wrong? Who are you to judge?" At that moment, the roar of sirens approached. Red and blue lights strobed through the windows. Anderson spun toward the door, cursing. Marcus seized the opportunity, lunging forward. He swung the lamp with all his might. The lamp struck Anderson's arm, the gun flying out of his hand. Ebony screamed. Anderson reeled backward, but with surprising speed, he tackled Marcus. They crashed onto the floor. Grappling, Ebony shrank against the wall. Within seconds, Detective Martinez and uniformed officers stormed inside, guns drawn. They pulled Anderson off, Marcus forcing him face down, cuffing his wrists as he spewed threats. Marcus lay gasping for breath, Ebony rushing to his side. Sirens wailed outside, lights danced along the walls. The nightmare had found them, and by some miracle they had survived. In the aftermath, paramedics checked Marcus's bruised ribs. Ebony clung to him, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. Detective Martinez offered a reassuring squeeze of Ebony's shoulder. Mr. Anderson, seething, was dragged to a squad car. Camera flashes from local reporters illuminated the chaotic scene. Finally, the crisis was over. Principal Kennedy faced charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and endangering minors. Mr. Anderson was charged with illegal arms dealing assault and multiple other felonies. Additional school staff were investigated, but none found complicit. Ms. Figueroa, though shaken, was hailed as a whistleblower who braved her own fears to ensure the students' safety. Marcus breathed a sigh of relief when authorities told him Ebony and Tia had provided indispensable testimony. The community also rose up in support of the two girls. They were recognized for their bravery at a city council meeting. A wave of sympathy and respect replaced the earlier suspicion and gossip. As the legal proceedings moved forward, Marcus read about Mr. Anderson's plea hearing. According to the press, he showed little remorse, claiming he had been set up and forced into the operation by bigger players. Principal Kennedy's trial revealed a web of corruption involving money laundering. Several old acquaintances testified that the principal had blackmailed them into silence, brandishing threats to their families and careers. Marcus took a certain grim satisfaction in witnessing karma at work. For every threat Mr. Anderson and Principal Kennedy had made, for every fear they instilled, they were now facing the consequences in court. Their attempts to deny responsibility fell flat in the face of mounting evidence. Ebony's recordings, Tia's photos, Ms. Figueroa's testimony, bank records, shipping logs, and the fateful confession overheard by the police wire. In the end, justice was not swift, but it was certain. Mr. Anderson was sentenced to over a decade in prison. Principal Kennedy received a similar, if not harsher, punishment. There would be appeals, but the foundation of their case had crumbled beneath the weight of irrefutable proof. In the days that followed, Ebony and Marcus returned to their modest home. The bullet-ridden safe house felt like a bad memory. Marcus took time off work to help Ebony adjust. The nightmares still haunted her. She'd jolt awake in the middle of the night, recalling the moment Mr. Anderson pointed a gun at her. Marcus, too, experienced flashbacks, hearing the threatening voice, feeling the weight of Anderson crashing down on him. They attended therapy sessions together, recommended by Detective Martinez, who checked in often. Gradually, Ebony opened up about her trauma, the guilt and the betrayal by people she had once trusted. Marcus discussed his regrets at spying on her, grappling with whether it was justified. The therapist helped them see that while the act of secret recording was invasive, it ultimately saved Ebony and many others. Through it all, Ebony found solace in journaling. She wrote about her experiences, weaving them into short stories and poems. Sometimes, she drew pictures of the school gym once associated with laughter and basketball games, now tinged with darker memories. Each day the heaviness lifted a bit more, replaced by gratitude for life resilience and a father's unwavering love. Lincoln High tried to heal as well. An interim principal took over, vowing to restore integrity. The school board launched reforms to prevent further corruption, implementing stricter security background checks and oversight committees. Students and parents banded together, forming neighborhood watch groups to ensure suspicious activities never went ignored again. Tia and Ebony found themselves local celebrities. Invitations poured in for them to speak at youth gatherings on topics like bullying, reporting wrongdoing, and trusting the right adults. They were shy at first, but slowly they realized their story had the power to inspire others, reminding everyone that sometimes the smallest voice can make the biggest change. Months later, Ebony received a letter from the mayor's office. She'd been nominated for a Citizen's Bravery Award alongside Tia. The city wanted to honor them for their remarkable courage in exposing corruption. A ceremony was scheduled at Detroit's historic Fox Theater, with city officials, journalists, and local heroes in attendance. On the big day, Ebony dressed in a modest teal dress, her braids woven with bright beads. Marcus wore his best suit, beaming with pride. Tia stood next to Ebony, wearing a soft pink gown, eyes bright with excitement. When their names were called, they walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The mayor smiled broadly, commending them for risking their own safety to protect their classmates and the community at large. Tears glistened in Marcus's eyes as he watched Ebony clutch the award, a gold medallion. He whispered words of pride when she returned to her seat, and Ebony grinned. This moment felt like a victory over fear, a testament to the unbreakable bond between a father and his daughter. In the final aftermath, Ebony eventually learned to forgive Marcus fully for the hidden microphone. She understood he'd been fueled by fatherly love. Marcus, in turn, vowed to communicate openly and to trust that Ebony would confide in him if something was truly wrong. Neither took this lesson lightly. One quiet evening they sat on their porch, the sky streaked with orange and pink as the sun set behind the Detroit skyline. Ebony, fiddling with the medal around her neck, turned to Marcus. "Dad, do you ever wish none of this had happened?" He gazed at her, reflecting on the terror, the close calls, the confrontation with Mr. Anderson. Then he considered how Ebony had grown into a courageous young girl, aware of her own strength and the power of standing up for the truth. "I wish you never had to be scared," he admitted. "But I think what we went through taught us something important, that we can't hide from injustice, no matter how dangerous, and I learned to trust that you are braver than even I imagined." Ebony leaned her head on his shoulder. The city lights began to flicker on a gentle hum surrounding them. It wasn't a perfect world, but they had each other, and that for now was enough. Time marched on, and as the school year ended, Ebony and Tia passed their exams with flying colors. Lincoln High slowly rebuilt its reputation. Under new leadership, Miss Figueroa gained respect for her integrity. Meanwhile, in prison, Principal Kennedy and Mr. Anderson faced the harsh realities of their choices. They lost their status, their freedom, and the trust of a community that once looked to them for guidance. Hard karma indeed. Marcus and Ebony continued their journey, father and daughter resolute. The painful chapters behind them served as a reminder that love sometimes demands difficult decisions, and wrongdoing does not go unpunished forever. Indeed, there are consequences, some that unfold in public courtrooms, and others that haunt the perpetrators long after the headlines fade. Thank you for joining us on this roller coaster of secrets, courage, and ultimate justice. From Marcus's difficult choice to protect his daughter at any cost to Ebony's brave stand against a trusted teacher turned dangerous criminal, we've witnessed just how far a parent's love can go. Their story shows that the smallest spark of truth can outshine even the darkest conspiracy, and that standing up for what's right often demands sacrifice. If this tale inspired you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories that shed light on hidden truths, celebrate bravery, and remind us that hope and justice can prevail even when the odds seem stacked against us. Spread the word so more people can learn from this gripping narrative and find the courage to confront wrongdoing in their own lives. Stay tuned for more real-life inspirations.